Hey there, this is Molly. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. As I wanted to do a video for you on how the lunar cycle has not been in its natural flow since July 2020. So let's start with what it means for the lunar cycle to naturally flow, where we have a new moon in one sign and then the full moon is experienced in the opposite sign. This provides balance and new awareness. This is how the lunar cycle is meant to operate, where you have the new moon first, followed by the full moon in the opposite sign. So typically that would mean the Aries new moon leads to the Libra full moon. The Taurus new moon leads to Scorpio full moon. Gemini new moon goes to the Sagittarius full moon, and so on. Now, when the lunar cycle is in its natural progressive flow, there are two cycles underway, where in your chart, you're experiencing the new moon on one side of your chart, followed by that full moon on the opposite part of your chart. Let me show you what I mean. So the Aries new moon would happen in the Aries house in your chart. In this example chart, this would be in the first house. And then the full moon would happen as that moon would then progress through all 6 signs and be at the opposite point in Libra, which would then be in the opposite house in your chart. So that would mean that in the typical lunar cycle, the new moons would all be happening on one side of your chart, and then the full moons would be happening on the opposite side of the chart. So these are the cycles that are typical, meaning how the moon typically flows, how it moves through energies, and then how it culminates with that full moon revelation, illumination, or higher understanding perspective. Now, since July 2020, when we had 2 Cancer new moons, the lunar cycle has been in reverse. So it means it is out of its normal flow, and we have a full moon first, and the full moon energies are typically more emotional. They are energetically big. It could feel like, oh my goodness, there's a lot going on with this full moon. I have to hurry up, clean it up to arrive at a new beginning point for the preceding new moon. So what we have here is that it's been in reverse. Instead of having the Aries new moon first and then the Libra full moon, we've had the full moon that, again, it's very big energy. It's more emotional. It like shows you something. It's revelatory. It's, oh my goodness, I didn't know that was happening. And then the energy that follows leads you to the Aries new moon. That's the beginning point. So it's a bit like that full moon creates a mess, brings something up really big, shows you something, and then leads you to the new starting point. So this new Aries starting point, which would then happen in the later degrees of Aries, so say 26, 27, 28 degrees of Aries, then leads to a culmination of the Scorpio full moon, because every new moon is a beginning point, right? So you're beginning with an Aries new moon, and instead of that new moon going to Libra, which it would do in a normal lunar cycle, the new moon has gone to another astrology sign, in this case Scorpio. So you're starting something with this Aries, fire, new beginnings. Let's do something that is fresh. I'm ready for this new beginning point. But it leads to the Scorpio full moon. And the Scorpio energy is water. It's intense. It's fixed. It's transformative. Aries and Scorpio share Mars in common. So it has that Mars quality in this particular lunar cycle. But then that Scorpio full moon, it's emotionally big, powerful, intense. It opens up something that then leads to cleaning up and arriving at a simple, grounded beginning point with the Taurus new moon. Instead of the Taurus new moon being first, and then it builds to the Scorpio full moon, it's in reverse, right? Where it's the Scorpio full moon went first, then it led to that Taurus new moon, where it's like, okay, let me gather things together, let me untangle whatever came up, whatever was complicated here, let me get back to a simple understanding, a simple starting point. Then that Taurus new moon was the beginning point that led to the Sagittarius full moon lunar eclipse. Now, Taurus and Sag don't have a lot in common. So you're starting something with this grounded earth energy. You want it to be clean, clear. You want to build something. It led to the Sagittarius full moon lunar eclipse, which is a little bit reckless and restless and doesn't want to do things by the book. It doesn't want to be held back. So there isn't much in common. And this cycle has continued. Again, it started most recently in July 2020. And then it led us through all of these various lunar cycles. So let me show you more. So that Sagittarius full moon eclipse, the full moon, revelatory, bringing up something very big that led to the Gemini new moon, which is how do I focus on the details, gather together what's essential, bring together a plan. And then that Gemini energy was the beginning point that led to Capricorn. Now, Gemini and Capricorn don't have a lot in common. And every new moon is a beginning point. It's the starting of the energy that then is meant to basically be illuminating or revealing something in the opposite sign. But this is not the opposite sign. So here we have this Capricorn full moon that's serious, responsibility, commitment, very much focused on what you're creating for the long term. Maybe brought up some goals, some things that you had going on that you needed to change, put on a new path, a new trajectory, and then that led to the Cancer new moon. So this has been a reverse lunar cycle where instead of the energy progressively growing and building to that full moon climax, it's been reversed. So it's been like there's a giant mess to clean up, or it feels disjointed, or it feels like you're playing defense. Like, oh my goodness, I'm always behind, or there's things that are happening that I can't figure out ahead of time. It's like there's kind of like the fire drill, and then the cleaning it up and coming back into yourself and taking a moment, taking a breath before the next big energy comes through. So this has been a cycle that's been underway for a year now. And what's happening here in July and August of 2021 is that we're going to have these two Aquarius full moons. So there's an Aquarius full moon that leads to that Leo new moon, but the Leo new moon is a very powerful beginning point that leads to another Aquarius full moon. Now we're back on track. Now that Leo moon understands it needs to create something personal, inspired, exciting, something that perhaps is taking a risk, doing something different, that culminates with the Aquarius full moon that's about taking it out into the world, having it be something that is shared, something that reflects your individual nature. So now there's a harmony that has returned. And this is where the lunar cycle is back on track with how it progressively creates, how it naturally moves towards that opposite sign. So we have two Aquarius full moons, and they are helping us understand what is ending and completing so that we can get back on track and start something new. Now, this Leo new moon is also happening on August 8th, so the 8/8 Lionsgate portal, and it's an opening into these next areas of yourself, the next step, the next trajectory where you're going for the future. The double Aquarius full moons further emphasizes the Aquarius energies that we've been experiencing throughout 2021, where we had the stellium of energies in Aquarius in February. We also had that powerful Aquarius new moon in February. So we're getting a lot of Aquarius energies throughout this year. And now we're finally getting that lunar cycle back on its normal flow, back on its normal track because of these two full moons. Now keep in mind, this will be the case until September 2022, where we'll have two Virgo new moons that will reverse the lunar cycle again. But we're going to have a good year of this energy being in flow. And keep in mind that the lunar energy is receptive, it is feminine, it's about what we receive, how we feel, what we take in, how we feel emotionally in control of ourselves and of our lives. It's our internal world, our internal nature, and it might feel like with this reset, there's more of a flow. So what you're ready to start and begin is going to naturally culminate in something that is in alignment and makes sense. And so I feel like this is going to be a welcomed shift, something to be aware of. It could also make sense when you look back on the previous lunar cycle here, where if you felt like something had to be really big to get your attention, whether you liked it or not, and then you had to figure it out, clean it up, get onto that new starting page with the next new moon, that cycle is going to now shift and be back in its natural flow. So I hope this makes sense in terms of how the lunar cycle with the new moons and the full moons has been reversed, with the full moon happening before the new moon, which is the balancing equal. The balancing equal, because there's always a relational connection between opposite astrology signs. So perhaps that helps you connect some dots around your emotional world or your emotional experiences, maybe even how some of the full moons have been bigger or you've just felt them more intensely. And again, feeling like there's a mess or something you've had to clean up in order to get to a new beginning point to start again. And so instead of being on the defense or feeling like there's a lot to clean up after the full moon to get to this new moon, we're going to be back on track for this powerful new moon moving us towards the complementary full moon. So this will be a welcome shift here in August of 2021. And I hope that makes sense, because it can again explain perhaps why some things have felt emotionally bigger or like you've always been behind. So thank you for joining me for this brief video. I hope it explains some things and makes sense around maybe what you've been moving through, especially if you're really feeling the energies of every new moon and full moon. I'll be back soon with another YouTube video, and I also have my podcast every Monday and Wednesday. If you want to learn astrology with me, check out my courses below this video. I offer a lot of courses, and I hope that they support you in understanding your own astrological energies even more. I'll see you back here really soon.